The calm before the storm. In the holiday paradise. It's not about sandcastles on the beach today. Instead, the Dutch North Sea dunes are the next port of call for the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. 29 drivers fighting for every centimetre at Zandvoort. But as always, at the end of the day, only one driver will top the podium. Last week, this man showed how it's done. Jaap van Lagen won race 7 for Porsche Racing at the Nürburgring, although he had joined the team as a replacement only 1 week beforehand. I thought, be a guest starter once, and then we had an incredibly good weekend. P2 and P3, and then they told me, you can drive again in the next race, and I thought, okay, perhaps one more race. Then we had another weekend, we even won a race. Incredible, I'm very happy. A success that's no accident. Van Lagen is an absolute specialist when it comes to the Cup. He's also active in the Porsche Super Cup. A quick racer who has lifted Team Porsche up the standings after a poor display in Spielberg.
It's the
result that proves that the cooperation is functioning. These are small inputs that help us advance a bit in the context of the tight championship. As to the rest, we're showing that the car and the team are functioning wonderfully well. At Zandvoort, Van Lagen aims to build on his explosive start. In the dunes, in front of his home crowd, the track is like an old friend. He knows the pitfalls inside out. We are at Tarzan here, the first turn at Circuit Park Zandvoort. It's a very important turn and an overtaking opportunity here. Mind you, it isn't easy. The problem is that there's a bump exactly where the braking point is. And that's what makes it so difficult. Once the wheel blocks, it's incredibly hard to get it rolling once again. But the roller coaster track in the dunes has more hazards. For example, the Hugenholtz-Bocht corner, named after the former track director Hans Hugenholtz. The exit here is incredibly important, but it's not easy. Every time you turn in, you're too early or you're too late at the end here. If you're too late, your car is oversteering. If you're too early on the inside, your car is understeering, and then the exit is rubbish. Familiarity with the track, home advantage, buoyed by a storming start. For Jaap van Lagen, the going-in position this weekend couldn't be better. He's not the only driver, though, enjoying home advantage. Larry ten Voorde is a Dutchman too, and now introduces us to his home track.
So here we are, one lap at Circuit Park Zandvoort with Larry ten Voorde. So here we come the straight, he's at top speed like 250 kilometers an hour, and important for corner 1, Tarzan bocht, brake really late, but also at the end late apex, and of course hit the apex. 2, third gear, fourth gear, a quick right-hander, but important here not to go completely to the wet, so you still have a bit of space for the Hugenholtz corner. Have a good exit here, and this is again a little straight, and it goes to Rob Slotermaker corner. And of course we see here who has the big balls. Is this flat? Completely. Here I lift. Fourth gear, schijfvlak corner. Important, good mid speed. Okay, then we come to the left. He had a bit of oversteer, too much pushing on the entry. Then we come here to the right corner, turn number 9. Good, hit the apex, and then we come to the corner, bocht zonder naam. It means corner without name. Important here again, the apex, open the steer and get a good run to the chicane. 4th gear, 5th gear, checking the braking point at the 2nd white line, brake completely left, full over the curb, but not too much, so get the car really easy, inside, have a good exit, and again use all the track on the outside. Then we come to the 2nd last corner, important here, really get the whole inside, we go to the outside, and the last corner, Arjen Luijendijk bocht, try always to do it flat, but it was not now. And this is 1 lap at Circuit Zandvoort met Larry ten Voorde.
That's how it goes if everything's perfect. But Zandvoort is anything but easy, as the drivers learned in qualifying. Things didn't go quite perfectly for Jaap van Lagen. P3 in the first race for the local hero, but he used his home advantage to clinch the pole position for the second one. In front of him, after a long barren spell, it's the Luxembourg rookie Dylan Carrera. And reliable as usual, Thomas Preining. He clinched his 7th pole position this year. However, qualifying didn't always go perfectly for him either. Well, qualifying at Zandvoort went pretty well, but not completely as planned. We are in P1 for today's race and in P2 for tomorrow. That's good. It means we're in a very good position for the championship. So, hearing from Thomas Preining then, who puts the car, of course, on pole position for this race. We're on the grid for race number 1. So the BWT Leckner racer goes from P1 again, which incidentally is the outside line going into turn number 1, the Tarzan turn, going from P2 and therefore on the inside but a car length back. It's a very good qualifying from the rookie Dylan Carrera. Get the thumbs up from him. And the local hero, Jaap van Lagen, will go from P3. There was a big surprise for P4. Ayhan Guven from Turkey and Mika Lammermuller will start from P5 on the grid. So the green flag from the marshal at the rear. And as the lights are out, let's go racing. Now Glenn Van Paris has a huge problem, stays in his grid position. The team had changed the gearbox between qualifying and the race, and all cars avoiding, as you can see from being on board with Soren Spring. Apart from Glenn Van Paris, everything else is okay. Ayhan Guven attacking Jaap van Lagen, and we're on board with Henrik Skoog attacking Igor Valilko. Thomas Preining in front, followed by the chasing pack of 28 911s. You can see the bumps on the track from that camera shot. And on board, Henrik Skoog, still behind Igor Valilko. Larry ten Voorde tries to gain a position. It doesn't work out. Let's take a look at the onboard of Larry ten Voorde, which reinforces just how close the racing is in the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. But everything is absolutely fair and fine. Almost a touch, but not quite. So Thomas Preining in front. But there's already a gap to Dylan Carrera and Jaap van Lagen, and they are side by side going into the Tarzan turn number 1. A little touch between Dylan Carrera and Jaap van Lagen, who's got to go all the way around the outside, but that becomes the inside for the next turn. If he can make this work, it will be a brilliant overtake. A little touch between the two of them, maybe a risk of a puncture, but for now, Jaap van Lagen has got the job done. Let's go on board with Larry ten Voorde, still behind Henrik Skoog and Igor Valilko. So the local hero, Larry ten Voorde, wants to put on a show for his fans. Richard Wagner, sadly, is in the gravel. Now, what has happened to him? Well, here we can see the number 87 car then, behind Soren Spring. A braking mistake. Wagner spins. Spring cannot avoid the crash. Both can go on, but not for too long. So on board with Soren Spring getting out of the gravel. Passes slowly Wagner to the left, as you can see, and then suddenly spins. Let's take a look at the slow-mo of the same situation. So there you can see the number 4 car beached into the gravel, of course, which surrounds this old-school circuit here at Zandvoort. The race director, in race control there deploys the safety car, and therefore the drivers will all have to line up. And it's great news, of course, for Jaap van Lagen, because Thomas Preining's gap has been brought to nothing. So at the restart then, he tries to anticipate when Thomas Preining is going to go for it. And to be fair to Jaap van Lagen, he hasn't done a bad job there. However, he's got to try and find a way past as well. So Thomas Preining accelerates across the timing line, on board with Sandro Kaibach chasing Lucas Oertel, and Bosch into the back of Lucas Oertel, who had slowed because of the car ahead of him, which then starts a chain reaction which will bring the race to a close, because Glenn van Parijs here gets turned around, makes impact with the barriers, and then the car rolls over the MRS GT Racing driver, all perfectly okay, thankfully. But we lose Jorn Schmidt-Stade, Lucas Oertel and Glenn van Parijs. So let's hear exactly what went on then by talking to the race union driver, Lucas Oertel. After the safety car period, there was the restart, and Carlos Rivas apparently missed it, or I don't know what was going on in his mind. Then Sandro Kaibach hit me hard and caused me to spin. Carlos Rivas then offers us his explanation. He was slow, but he had a reason for that. We went on the attack from the second last turn on, but I had a tyre problem in the last turn, and I had to slow down a bit because otherwise I would have hit the barrier. Now the one behind me didn't notice. He didn't pass me, but hit me full on. I don't know about the rest. Obvious concern for Glenn van Parijs at Team MRS, but he gets the all clear, thankfully.
A big crash happened in front of me, and crash in the crash, hit the barrier, rolled the car, and yeah, the car looks pretty bad, but I feel fine for the moment, so I was lucky.
The track is being cleared up, the race is over, and the cars have to leave the track. And Thomas Preining is the race winner, though of course not the way he wants to win a race. I hope those involved in the crash are fine. It was a good race up until then. I was well in control. It's a shame. I hope we'll at least get a few points for the championship. Other than that, of course, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Well, the podium is a somewhat subdued affair with Thomas Preining, Jaap van Lagen and Dylan Pereira. Unfortunately, no points awarded for anybody because the race did not last long enough. His home weekend didn't go well until that point. Larry ten Voorde wanted to entertain his fans, but only finished P9 in the first race. Is it perhaps due to the workload outside the cockpit? The 21-year-old is pretty busy. The schedule is pretty packed. I have a rather large group of guests, about 40 to 50 people. And then I covered the ADAC GT Masters race in English yesterday. And I'll do so again after today's race. It's all part of the schedule, but actually it is manageable, and it's just part of it. With such a packed schedule, it's crucial for drivers like Larry ten Voorde and his teammate Michael de Quesada that everything runs perfectly in the background, meaning the team is the key factor. For Larry and for Michael, it's Team Project One from Loon in Lower Saxony, a team that faces enormous multiple burdens this season. We've assumed an enormous amount of work this year, but we've done so voluntarily and gladly. But in comparison to last year, it's completely different, of course. We're contesting 3 racing series, the Carrera Cup, which is an essential part of our program, then there's the Super Cup and the FIA Endurance Championship, the WEC, which logistically entails the most effort for us. An enormous strain, especially for the mechanics. No matter how much or how little time we have, the cars are completely disassembled. The shock absorbers are replaced, the drive shafts are replaced, the engine and transmission are replaced. Everything we're allowed to open will be inspected. A workload that has proved more than successful over the last few years as Philipp Eng, Christian Menzel and René Rast's triumphant cars indicate. Project One have won the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany 4 times so far, both in the Drivers' and in the Teams' Championship. Project One still see themselves as a family. The team have established a perfect infrastructure to keep drivers from abroad near the HQ in Loon. Drivers like Michael de Quesada are able to refine their fitness there. They can do it at home as well, but Michael, for example, would be completely out of it if he took a plane after every race. He'd lose contact to the team and we wouldn't really know how he exercises at home. We can manage it a bit better here. He stays in touch with the team and, more importantly, he's there and shows the lads that he's working for it. As well as that, the drivers reside in Lower Saxony for a while. US boy De Quesada is joined by a compatriot at Project One to manage the culture shock. It's former Carrera Cup driver Sean Johnston. I help the lads communicate with the team, how to manage their responsibility for their own communication. Sometimes it's hard for a boy from the US to understand this very direct form of communication. The boys sometimes say, "Hey, he's mean to me." Our communication in the US is sometimes a bit less direct. Then I tell them, no, they aren't mean, they are just direct. And of course, German lessons are very much part of it as well.
Ich komme aus Florida. That's a good one.
I'm from Florida.
Ich bin Rennfahrer.
I don't know.
That's the most important one. Junge. Okay, so ich bin
Call me
Rennfahrer.
child. Ich bin Rennfahrer.
Yeah, that's a little better. But still, the R is tough, isn't it?
So let's go on to the grid for race 2 on Sunday. Jaap van Lagen is on pole, Thomas Preining is behind. However, Glenn van Paris is P9. The MRS racing team worked all night to fix the car following the rollover in race 1. The local hero, Jaap van Lagen, highly motivated, and of course is in a perfect position to put on a great show for the hordes of local fans that are here, because he's going from P1. P2 belongs to Thomas Preining, and he's in conversation now with the Porsche junior coach, Sascha Marsen. Then we find Dylan Pereira, P3. Then it's Iancan Guven, and then another local hero. Going from P5 on the grid, the Project One racer, Larry ten Voorde, with work to do, to be fair, from P5 on the grid. So the tensions begin to rise ahead of the start of race number 2. We get the green flag from the marshal at the rear that indicates that the start sequence can get underway, and the lights go out. It's a brilliant start from Jaap van Lagen, who of course has got to try and dive to the inside and make sure he protects that inside line from this man, Thomas Preining. We're on board with Jaap van Lagen as all the cars make their way through the Tarzan turn. Larry ten Voorde all the way around the outside of Iancan Guven, who we're on board with. Igor Valilko trying to do exactly the same, but he's denied as the Turkish driver closes the door. So the cars on this roller coaster circuit, Larry ten Voorde on fire, attacking Dylan Pereira, but the Luxembourg driver closes the door. Let's go on board with Larry ten Voorde. Next to him is Iancan Guven, and they make contact here. Ten Voorde is on the outside and ends up losing one position. Ten Voorde clearly very angry and gestures to the Turkish driver ahead of him. So Larry ten Voorde still behind Iancan Guven, and you can really tell that ten Voorde is not amused and wants to get that position back. And there you can see just a little love tap between the 93 and the number 99 car. Jaap van Lagen, Thomas Preining, Dylan Pereira, the field still very close together. So through the Tarzan turn the cars go. And let's stay with our onboard shots as we go on board now with Larry ten Voorde as Iancan Guven makes a mistake. That allows Larry ten Voorde to get right alongside. So the cars are side by side through that turn. The outside becomes the inside for the next turn, but there is a touch between the two of them. They make contact. Ten Voorde on the outside. Guven spins. Now let's take a look at the same situation once again from being on board with Igor Valilko. There were 2, if not 3 touches there, and the end result is Iancan Guven spins. Now, of course, the battle between the two of them has been pretty fierce during the course of this race. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other is something that springs to mind. Let's hear from Larry ten Voorde. He hit my rear in the first lap. I have to look at it again before I say that, but that completely pushed me off, and he didn't give me nearly enough space on the outside in the second lap. Now, Soren Spreng here just gets the back end of the car onto the grass. Now, at that point, he is nothing other than a passenger and crashes into the barrier. So, once the wheel was on the damp grass, the car was spinning, and nothing that Soren Spreng could do to control that. The track has to be cleared up, the safety car is called, and we go on board with the race leader, Jaap van Lagen. Of course, this is a great opportunity for Thomas Preining now as Jaap van Lagen restarts the race. Thomas Preining is right on him as they head towards the timing line and into the Tarzan turn number 1. We're on board with Lucas Oertel, who's chasing Skupanski. They go to the Tarzan turn. Oertel gains 1 position and then attacks Peter Schofen. But there is contact between the two of them, and they both crash, and unfortunately both are going to end up having to retire from the race. Neither car able to continue. So Jaap van Lagen continuing to lead. Thomas Preining and Dylan Pereira chasing behind. Larry ten Voorde is already very close and catches Dylan Pereira very easily. So time to take a look at the cars between 5 and 10. Henrik Skoog is P5, coming from P10 incidentally, followed by teammate Igor Valilko and Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. On board Jorn Schmidt-Stade, Stefan Raykop is behind him, fighting for P2 and 3 in the Amateur Championship. Jorn Schmidt-Stade has a problem, 25th overall in the end, but still overall leading amateur driver. Carlos Rivas in front. He will win again in the Amateur Championship. After a horrible start in Oschersleben, he has won 5 out of the last 6 races. The front of the field once again, Jaap van Lagen, Thomas Preining, ten Voorde and Dylan Pereira. Where is Mikael Ammermuller? He started from P7 and is now only P9 behind Richard Heistand. On board with Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, Heistand and Ammermuller are following. It's a nice view of the battle that's going on here. Mikael Ammermuller is attacking, but can't make a move for now. So as he puts himself now right alongside Richard Heistand with a superior exit out of that turn, heading towards the Audi S complex. They are side by side. Ammermuller needs to put the car right in front of Heistand, but Heistand is able to outbrake him going into the Audi S's. So takes the curb, squeezes Mikael Ammermuller, and for the moment Richard Heistand remains ahead of the BWT Lechner car. From this shot, it would appear that Igor Valilko is quicker than Henrik Skoog, but Henrik Skoog is able just to stick his elbows out, and the Swede managing to stay in front of the Igor Valilko car at the moment. Here comes Mikael Ammermuller once again on Richard Heistand. Still nothing doing as we go on board with Mikael Ammermuller. He attacks again, trying very hard, and this time he will make it. As we can see here, really tracking the Heistand car and gets the inside line going into the next turn, and that is enough for Mikael Ammermuller to at last put himself ahead of the number 70 car. On board with Iancan Guven, he's still in the race and overtakes Marius Nacken here. Iancan Guven, of course, turned around with that incident with Larry ten Voorde earlier in the race. Here come the race leaders then. Jaap van Lagen from Thomas Preining, then it is Larry ten Voorde and Dylan Pereira, the 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's Henrik Skoog, Igor Valilko, Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. Simonauer is on the inside of Valilko, who tries to close the door. It doesn't work, they crash. Valilko somehow manages to stay in the race, although loses out to Mikael Ammermuller. Let's hear from him.
I made it, to be honest. It was really lucky that I made it. Full lock with steering wheel. But yeah, this is racing, you know, it was not so bad.
Let's go on board with Sandro Kaibach, who is behind Carlos Rivas, and just wait for the bullet, which is Jacob Eidson. Passing on the inside, you'll just see the car into picture there. So Richard Heistand versus Lucas in the Tarzan turn here. We've seen this before. Heistand can't manage to stay on the track. Regrettably, his race is over. He is very cross about that. As you can see, he walks away and the marshal tries to console, but he's having none of it. So, Jaap van Lagen and Thomas Preining on the final corner. Jaap van Lagen has done everything he can to stay ahead of Thomas Preining, and he has succeeded because the local hero, Jaap van Lagen, takes the checkered flag and wins the race. P2 to Thomas Preining, P3, of course, to Larry ten Voorde. So Dutchman P1 and P3, and Thomas Preining is celebrating as well in Parc Fermé. Let's hear from him. Of course, I want to win, but I also know that 20 points are extremely important for the championship and that I mustn't make any mistakes. Jaap was completely fired up, so I didn't want to risk everything, and actually, I'm very happy with the result. And one Dutchman is very glad about the number of home fans that are here. Honestly, there were only a few 2 years ago, but today I was thrilled by the boys and girls cheering. It makes me very proud. The other one is dancing on cloud 9 atop his car. Jaap van Lagen, race winner at Zandvoort. Let's hear from him. Usually there are always the same people here, and usually I'm on the podium. They all know me. It's incredibly nice. So as the drivers head up to the podium, Jaap van Lagen P1, Thomas Preining P2, and of course Larry ten Voorde is P3. Thomas Preining now leads the Drivers' Championship on 179 points. Mikael Lammermuller is 10 points behind. And the next race in the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany is at Sachsenring between the 7th and the 9th of September.